He was a quiet boy, unassuming. He blended in, no one suspected. Graham Young, before he turned 20, poisoned 70 people. His weapon of choice? Poison. His victims? Often those closest to him. The sinister tale of Graham Young is a chilling reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places. His fascination with death began in childhood, a morbid curiosity that blossomed into a terrifying reality. Young's story is a descent into the heart of darkness, a stark illustration of the human capacity for evil. From a young age, Young was drawn to the macabre. He devoured books about poisoners, fascinated by their methods and the suffering they inflicted. His interest quickly morphed into obsession. What started as a morbid fascination soon transformed into a deadly game. Young's early experiments were clumsy, almost childish. He tested poisons on insects, small animals, always pushing the boundaries. But his ambition grew, and with it, the body count. He craved power, control, and the thrill of watching life ebb away under his influence. His family, unsuspecting and vulnerable, became his first victims. Young's fascination with poisons wasn't merely a passing phase. He possessed a sharp mind, a quick learner with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. He devoured books on toxicology, meticulously studying the properties of various poisons, their effects and their antidotes. He was particularly drawn to the subtle, the undetectable poisons that mimicked common ailments, leaving their victims none the wiser until it was too late. His bedroom became a laboratory of sorts. He hoarded chemicals, meticulously labeling them, experimenting with dosages and delivery methods. His knowledge grew, and with it, his confidence. He began to see himself as a master manipulator, a puppet master controlling the fates of those around him. His family, oblivious to the danger lurking in their midst, dismissed his unusual behavior as the eccentricities of a bright but peculiar child. They failed to recognize the warning signs, the red flags that hinted at the darkness festering within him. They paid a heavy price for their ignorance. Young's early experiments focused on his family. He laced their food and drink with small doses of poison, carefully observing their reactions, taking notes, refining his methods. He delighted in their suffering, their bewilderment at the inexplicable illnesses that plagued them. The family home became a macabre stage for Young's twisted experiments. The family would gather for meals, unaware that the food they consumed, the tea they sipped, had been laced with poison. Stomach cramps, vomiting, agonizing pain, these became commonplace, attributed to a bad stomach bug or food poisoning. His stepmother, Molly, bore the brunt of his cruelty. Young harbored a particular resentment towards her, viewing her as an obstacle in his life. He increased the dosage in her food, delighting in her deteriorating health. Her agonizing decline, a slow and torturous poisoning, went unnoticed by the rest of the family. As Molly's condition worsened, doctors were baffled. Her symptoms pointed to no known illness. Young, playing the part of the concerned stepson, feigned ignorance, reveling in the fear and confusion that gripped the household. He was a master manipulator, weaving a web of deceit that ensnared those closest to him. Then, Molly died. Her death, attributed to natural causes, aroused no suspicion. Young had gotten away with murder. He had tasted power, and his appetite for it was insatiable. He was just getting started. Emboldened by his success, Young's poisoning spree continued. He branched out beyond his family, targeting classmates and teachers at school. A strange illness seemed to plague the school, leaving students and staff writhing in agony, their bodies racked with pain. Suspicions arose. The frequency and severity of the illnesses were too coincidental to ignore. Whispers of poisoning began to circulate. Young, with his morbid fascination with poisons, quickly became a person of interest. His locker was searched. The discovery was chilling. A veritable pharmacy of poisons, meticulously labeled and stored, was found hidden among his textbooks and school supplies. The evidence was irrefutable. Young was arrested. He was 14 years old. The news sent shockwaves through the community. The quiet, unassuming boy, the brilliant student, was a cold-blooded poisoner. Young's trial was a media sensation. The public was captivated by the story of the teenage poisoner. The prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing Young's morbid fascination with poisons, his extensive knowledge of toxicology, and the incriminating evidence found in his possession. Young, however, remained unrepentant. He seemed to relish the attention, the notoriety of his crimes. He showed no remorse for his actions, no empathy for his victims. He was deemed insane and unfit to stand trial. Instead of prison, Young was sent to Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric facility. He was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, a condition characterized by a lack of empathy, remorse, and disregard for social norms. The sentence was a mere 9 years. 9 years for poisoning dozens of people, for terrorizing an entire community. The sentence was met with outrage, with many believing that Young would be released only to kill again. Their fears were not unfounded. During his time at Broadmoor, Young showed no signs of remorse or rehabilitation. He continued to study poisons, even managing to obtain cyanide while incarcerated. He boasted to fellow inmates about his crimes, reveling in the notoriety they brought him. The staff at Broadmoor, despite their best efforts, seemed powerless to break through the wall of indifference that Young had erected around himself. He was a master manipulator, charming his way into their good graces while secretly plotting his next move. After 9 years, Young was deemed cured and released back into society. The decision was met with widespread condemnation. Many believed that Young was still a danger to society, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. They were right. Upon his release, Young seemed determined to prove his doubters right. He wasted no time in returning to his old habits, his old obsessions. He secured a job at a factory that manufactured optical lenses, a position that gave him access to thallium, a rare and highly toxic metal. Young's return to his murderous ways was swift and brutal. He began poisoning his co-workers, using the thallium he had stolen from the factory. The symptoms were agonizing: hair loss, vomiting, excruciating pain. Several victims were permanently disabled, 2 died. Once again, a pattern of strange illnesses emerged and whispers of poisoning began to circulate. The authorities, aware of Young's past, quickly zeroed in on him as the prime suspect. However, they lacked concrete evidence to arrest him. Young, ever the cunning manipulator, feigned innocence, playing the part of the concerned co-worker. But the authorities were watching him closely, waiting for him to slip up. They wouldn't have to wait long. One of Young's co-workers, a man named Bob Eagle, grew suspicious of Young's behavior. He had noticed Young's fascination with poisons and had overheard him talking about thallium. Eagle contacted the police. Armed with Eagle's tip, the police obtained a search warrant for Young's home. There, they found a diary. It was a chilling account of Young's crimes, detailing the names of his victims, the poisons he had used, and the agonizing deaths he had inflicted upon them. The diary was the smoking gun the police needed. Young was arrested and charged with murder. This time there would be no talk of insanity, no lenient sentences. The evidence against him was overwhelming, his guilt undeniable. During his trial, Young seemed to relish the attention, the notoriety that his crimes brought him. He showed no remorse, no empathy for his victims. He reveled in the details of their suffering, describing their deaths with a chilling detachment that sent shivers down the spines of those present in the courtroom. The jury found Young guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life in prison, a sentence he would serve until his death in 1990. The teacup poisoner, as he had become known, was finally brought to justice. The sinister tale of Graham Young is a chilling reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places. Behind Young's unassuming facade lay a mind consumed by darkness, a heart devoid of empathy or remorse. His story serves as a stark warning about the dangers of underestimating the human capacity for evil. It highlights the importance of recognizing the warning signs of psychopathy and taking action to prevent such individuals from harming others. Young's legacy is one of pain, suffering, and loss. His victims, forever scarred by their encounters with him, serve as a constant reminder of the devastating impact that one person's evil can have on the lives of many. Their stories are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to endure even in the face of unimaginable cruelty. The case of Graham Young continues to fascinate and horrify, reminding us that the line between normalcy and madness can be razor thin. It serves as a stark reminder that the monsters we fear most aren't always lurking in the shadows. Sometimes they hide in plain sight.